Hi guys and welcome back. This is the continuation of my journey exploring Rotterdam, the first city I am really discovering in Europe. For those of you who don't know me, I am Vishnu, an officer of the Indian Revenue Service. Right now I am on a career break, giving myself the space to pursue some personal goals in music, writing, health, and of course, exploring the world. Today was one of those rare sunny days in Rotterdam, the kind you don't want to waste indoors. So my son and I decided to cycle our way to Trompenburg Arboretum. Our ride takes us through Hoogstraat, which literally means High Street. It is one of Rotterdam's oldest streets, part of the city's medieval heart before the bombings of 1940 reshaped it. Today it looks more modern, but knowing the layers of history beneath makes the ride more meaningful. The Netherlands is world famous for its cycling culture, and once you spend some time here, you understand why. The infrastructure is built for it: wide, separate bike lanes, dedicated traffic signals, and parking everywhere you go. Here, a bicycle isn't just transport, it's a way of life. In Dutch, a cycle is called a fiat, and there are actually more bikes here than people in the country. If you are visiting, you don't even need to buy one. With the OV Fiats, a public rental bike linked to your Metro card, you can pick up a bicycle at train stations across the Netherlands and ride off as if it's your own. It is simple, affordable, and shows how deeply cycling is woven into daily life here. Of course, there is also the less glamorous side: bike thefts. Expensive e-bikes and fat bikes are often stolen, and everyone seems to have a story about losing one. That's why many people stick to second-hand cycles. That's what I did too. A new bike would cost around 300 euros, but I managed to get a great one on Marktplaats. It's kind of the Dutch OLX. For just 60 euros, I found a solid Fiat that rides beautifully. Honestly, the bargain makes every ride feel even sweeter. After weaving through the streets of Rotterdam, we finally reached Trompenburg Arboretum, a place that feels like a green sanctuary in the middle of the city. The Arboretum has its origins in the early 19th century as a private garden belonging to a wealthy Rotterdam family. Over time, it grew in size and design, eventually becoming a carefully curated collection of plants, trees, and landscaped areas. Today, it stretches across about 8 hectares, laid out in a way that combines formal gardens, water features, shaded woodlands, and open lawns. Every corner seems designed to surprise you. One moment you are walking under a canopy of ancient oaks, and the next you are passing rare rhododendrons or carefully tended flower beds. The collection here is vast. You will find trees and shrubs from almost every continent, from Japanese maples and Himalayan conifers to Mediterranean plants and native Dutch species. The curation makes the walk not just relaxing but also educational. Each plant tells a story of how it traveled across continents to find a home here in Rotterdam. During my walk, I chanced upon the belladonna, the toxic plant which is used in homeopathy also, and I was explaining to my son how a toxic plant also finds use in modern medicine and in our daily lives. Entry is normally ticketed, but since I have the museum card, the Dutch museum card, entry was free for me. It's one of those small Dutch innovations that add immense value. You pay once a year and doors to hundreds of museums, gardens, and cultural sites open up. The Arboretum itself is beautifully maintained. Clean paths, detailed signboards, and a sense of calm that makes you slow down without realizing it. Now, coming from India, I can't help but make comparisons. Our botanical gardens back home are much larger in scale. Take Lal Bagh in Bangalore with its 240 acres, or the Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Botanical Garden in Kolkata, which covers over 270 acres and is home to the famous Great Banyan Tree that spreads across nearly 15,000 square meters. Compared to that, Trompenberg feels almost pocket-sized. Even the Theosophical Society gardens in Chennai or Ooty Botanical Garden dwarf it in area. But here is the interesting part. In just my second week in Netherlands, I am starting to notice this difference in scale everywhere. India is about abundance of land, of people, of biodiversity. The Netherlands, by contrast, is about precision and curation. What's small here is made meaningful, carefully packaged, and often monetized. Europeans have mastered the art of turning even modest spaces into rich, experiential experiences, whether it's an arboretum, a canal boat ride, or a heritage walking tour. Trompenberg is no exception. Beyond just being a garden to stroll through, it regularly hosts events, from guided walks that explore the medicinal uses of plants to workshops on sustainable gardening, to quirky experiences like the Edible Trees Tour, where you learn about trees whose leaves, fruits, or even bark have culinary or medicinal value. This is something India can learn from. We are one of those most biodiverse countries on the planet, but often our parks and botanical gardens remain underutilized, seen more as picnic spots than learning spaces. If we curated our biodiversity through such thematic tours, workshops, and cultural events, we could both celebrate our natural heritage and create sustainable revenue streams for conservation. Walking through Trompenberg, I felt this quiet balance between nature and culture, between leisure and learning. And as I took my son running along the shaded paths, I can't help but think this is how cities should breathe. Now we enter the edible section of Trompenberg. Let's call it the food forest, which began taking shape around 2018 and today covers about 1.5 hectares of this 8-hectare garden. Here, under the dappled sunlight, a mix of berry bushes, nut trees, herbs, and perennial vegetables gently cradles us. Some branches are heavy with ripe fruit, harvest-ready raspberries or apples, just waiting to be tasted. It feels like stepping into a living laboratory where food and forest intertwine, where every plant has a role in creating a sustainable ecosystem. This is nature curated as nourishment, designed so you could walk, learn, snack, and wonder all in one elegant green tapestry. And now the air changes. We step into the desert greenhouse, an otherworldly contrast. It houses cacti, agaves, and succulents, plants shaped by survival in arid lands, brought here to thrive beneath climate-controlled glass. Some of these cacti rise like the architectural sculptures, thick ribs, spines glinting in the light, leaves that store water like hidden reservoirs. Others crowd in clusters, a silent tribe rendered in shades of green, ochre, etc. The greenhouse hums with filtered sunlight and still warmth. You can almost feel the slow metabolism of these desert dwellers. It's like walking into a sculptural gallery of resilience, plants that have evolved to thrive where everything else gives up. Seeing an edible forest beside a desert greenhouse in the same garden, where once it was a medieval swampland, makes me reflect on two things. First, how the Dutch seem to turn every part of a garden, even its smallest sections, into an experiential learning zone. Edible landscapes invite interactive curiosity. Desert houses invite wonder and respect for adaptation. In India, where our biodiversity is far richer and our traditions of forest-based food systems are ancient, we could learn from this model. Imagine edible trails in Indian gardens, gouts climbing pergolas, spices lining borders, guided tastings under banyan trees. It would blend education, enjoyment, and ecology in ways that feel contemporary yet rooted. Second, this sense of scale and precision is something I am learning to appreciate. In India, we build grand sprawling parks, but here, even a 1.5 hectare edible plot and a compact greenhouse make for rich, layered experiences. As I follow my son's footsteps out of the greenhouse and into the edible forest again, I am struck. Trompenberg isn't just a garden. It's a mosaic of ecosystems, each powerful in its own way, each teaching something about nature, design, and how we choose to experience both. From the calm greenery of Trompenberg, we made our way to one of Rotterdam's most iconic landmarks, the Euromast. As we approached, the river Maas flowed gently alongside, a reminder of how central waterways are to the life of this city. I had already booked our tickets online, and with a quick Google search, I even managed to find some discount coupons. So, if you are planning a visit, that's a small tip to save a few euros. The ticket included access to both viewing platforms, one at 112 meters and the other at 185 meters. We chose the full experience with the Euroscoop ride, where you sit inside a glass cabin that's lifted all the way to 185 meters and then slowly rotates to a full 360 degrees. The transparent floor beneath your feet adds an extra thrill as the city literally unfolds below you. The Euromast has its own story too. It was built in 1960, designed by architect Hugh Maskant, originally as part of the Floriade Horticultural Exhibition. Standing at 101 meters back then, it was the tallest building in Rotterdam. Later, to keep its title as the city's highest viewpoint, the Euroscoop extension was added in 1970, raising it to 185 meters. The name itself is quite straightforward. Euro reflects Rotterdam's identity as the gateway to Europe, and mast is simply the Dutch word for mast, symbolizing both ships and communication towers. It's very much in keeping with Rotterdam's modern, no-nonsense style. And now here we are, just arriving at the entrance, ready to head up and see Rotterdam from the skies. As we stepped into the reception area of the Euromast, the atmosphere immediately felt lively. To one side there was a small cafeteria, already buzzing with visitors grabbing coffee and snacks. But what really caught our attention were the two interactive shows about Rotterdam's history, scheduled to begin right before our ride up. Our tickets were for 6:30, so we had just enough time. At exactly 6 p.m, the doors to the first show opened, right on Dutch punctuality. This was no ordinary presentation. The floor beneath us lit up with projections, and suddenly it felt as if water was spilling over our feet. As we walked, the ripples moved with us, like stepping into Rotterdam's past itself. The first show told us the story of how this city was born out of a marshland. Originally, the area was nothing more than the swamp and waterways until around 13th century. In 13th century, the settlers built a dam on the river Rot, from which the name Rotterdam comes. From that simple act, literally Rot Dam, a town began to take shape. By the 14th century, it had grown enough to be granted city rights. Over the next few centuries, Rotterdam expanded steadily, especially as the river Maas and its access to the North Sea turned it into a vital trading port. By the time of the Dutch Golden Age in 17th century, Rotterdam was firmly established as one of Europe's busiest harbours. Its population swelled, its shipyards thrived, and its merchants connected the Netherlands to the world. Even after wars, floods, and the devastating bombing of 1940 that flattened the old city centre, Rotterdam kept reinventing itself, always bound to the water, always looking outward. The second show switched from the past to the present. A panoramic skyline of Rotterdam unfolded on the screen, highlighting its most important landmarks. There was the Erasmus Bridge, often called the Swan, stretching gracefully across the Maas, the angular De Rotterdam Towers, one of Europe's tallest buildings, the quirky cube houses that tilt at impossible angles, and of course the Euromast itself. It felt like a preview of what we were about to experience in real life from above, Rotterdam's modern identity written in steel, glass, and water, layered over centuries of history. As the lift hummed upwards, I could feel the quiet thrill of being pulled away from the ground. Rotterdam began to sink below us, and in under a minute, the door slid open to the first viewing platform at 112 meters. Stepping out, the city stretched beneath me like a vast canvas, every corner telling a different part of Rotterdam's story. The air was crisp, the horizon wide, and here, for the first time, I could truly sense the city's scale. Directly ahead lay the river Maas, broad and commanding, slicing Rotterdam into two halves. Its surface shimmered with constant activity, cargo ships, barges, ferries, and small leisure boats crisscrossing one another. This is the artery that gives life to Rotterdam. The Maas connects the city not just to the North Sea, but to the Rhine River system, and through it to the heart of Europe, Germany, Switzerland, and even the Alps. That's why Rotterdam's port is more than just Dutch. It is Europe's port. And what a port it is. Stretching westwards beyond what the eye can follow, the port of Rotterdam remains the largest in Europe, handling more containers and bulk goods than any of its rivals. For centuries, goods from every part of the world, coffee from Brazil, spices from Indonesia, oil from the Middle East, have passed through here. Even today, standing on this platform, you can see the cranes, the warehouses, the endless lines of containers stacked like Lego bricks on the horizon. It's humbling to think that from this one city, trade pulses outwards, binding together continents. Sweeping my gaze leftwards, the I.R.S. on one of Rotterdam's most graceful icons, the Erasmus Bridge or the Swan. Its single wide pylon, 139 meters tall, leans forward like the neck of a bird, while dozens of steel cables fan out like feathers. Built in 1996, it was controversial at first, but today it's beloved, not just as a feat of engineering, but as a symbol of Rotterdam's rebirth. Standing here, you understand why. It doesn't just connect North and South Rotterdam, it connects the city's history with its modern ambitions. Across the river, the south bank glitters with high rises. This is Kop van Zuid, once an abandoned dockland, now reborn as a vibrant district of towers and theatres. The most striking among them is De Rotterdam, designed by Rem Koolhaas, 3 giant blocks stacked together, nicknamed the Vertical City. Around it, the new Luxor Theatre, the Montevideo Tower, and other shimmering silhouettes, all of which seem to proclaim Rotterdam's determination to rise again after destruction. Turning further, the skyline becomes even more eclectic. There is a market hall shaped like a giant arch with apartments curving above a food market inside. On its ceiling is one of the largest artworks in the world, bright, surreal images of fruits and flowers, almost like stepping into a Dutch still life painting on a colossal scale. Nearby are the cube houses designed in the 1970s by Piet Blom, tilted at 45 degrees as if balancing on one corner. They are playful, disorienting, and perfectly Dutch in their willingness to experiment with the very idea of what a house can be. Further north, an older survivor stands proudly, the Witte Huis or the White House. Built in 1898, it was once Europe's tallest skyscraper at 43 meters, and miraculously, it survived the bombing of May 1940 that flattened Rotterdam's medieval center. It feels symbolic, a reminder of the city that was, standing alongside the city that is. And then, more recent triumphs of the design, the angular roof of Rotterdam Central Station pointing like an arrow towards the city center, a hub where trains from Paris, Brussels, and Amsterdam converge. But this skyline isn't just a display of steel and glass, it's a story of resilience. In May 1940, during the early days of World War II, German bombers wiped out Rotterdam's historic heart. The medieval churches, the narrow canal houses, the old merchant streets, almost all of it was gone in one afternoon. Unlike Amsterdam or Utrecht, this city doesn't wear its history on its walls. It wears its history in its spirit, of refusing to look back, of daring to reinvent. From this platform, that choice is visible in every building that touches the sky. After taking in the views from the 112-meter platform, we went higher to the Euroscoop experience. Waiting there was a sleek glass cabin. We stepped inside, the doors sealed shut, and slowly the lift began to rise. The transparent floor beneath us added a thrill, as though we were floating above the entire city. Rotterdam turned gently below, its skyline, its bridges, its rivers, its ships, each detail unfolding in perfect sequence. And as we turned, I couldn't help but reflect. Here was a city that grew out of marshes, that faced bombs, that wrestles daily with water, and yet rises higher each time. From 185 meters up, it doesn't just look like a port or a skyline. It looks like a promise that resilience and imagination can build a future brighter than the past.